Hello, we're going to get started now on the Appwich project, part 2. And the downloaded file has the descriptive analytics that you completed in part 1. And it also has the data set that you imported also from part 1. So this is a continuation of part 1, and we're going to add more to this particular analysis. So to get things started, let's go to File, let's go to Save As, and let's change it to -2, so that way we make sure that we have a file that we can upload to our Cengage MindTap. All right, so we've already completed our descriptives, so I'm going to add a new file right after descriptives, and I'm going to go ahead and get started on this project. So this new sheet is actually going to be the quarter monthly capital MON financial performance. All right, and in cell B2, and let me zoom in just a little so on YouTube you can see what I'm typing. We want to type quarterly financial performance. So just for reference, I am just going to copy and paste it in, and I am going to make sure that stays as values so that way I don't have any issues. Starting in E4, I want total sales. G4, I want total cost, underscore cost. Make sure that you copy the proper case and spelling that is in the instructions, because the grading algorithm does not take kindly to misspellings. So in B5 we have quarter. We're going to have count. In this case, actually, it's going to be percent total with no space, sum average, and we're going to copy that a couple times over. So to make things easier, I'm just going to go copy, paste, and paste. Now in this set of cells, E and F on 4, I'm going to merge and center. I want that cell style to be heading 2. And I'm going to copy that format onto the next one and copy that format onto the next one. For this set of cells, I want this to be heading 2. I'm sorry, heading 3. My apologies. And I'm going to center everything. Okay. So now for quarters, this is simple. I'm going to do quarters 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what I want to do is count the number of quarters, or how many records I have in each quarter. So to do this, I have to use a COUNTIF function. So COUNTIF. And I want to count the transactions quarters, the transactions quarter column based on the criteria that is in cell B6. All right, now what I want to do also, just for completion, I want to make sure that B is frozen in case I copy this function anywhere and I reuse it. And that way, at least the column B is always going to stay frozen, but 6 might change. So I will select enter. I'll get 729 for quarter 1, and I will continue on with those to see the rest. All right. So now I want to get the percent total. What I want is how many records is 729 based on the total records here. So that's an easy calculation. I'm going to just say this is equal to this value divided by the sum of these 4 values here. Now, when I copy and paste this formula, C6 and C9 will change because it's a relative reference. So I'm going to change that to an absolute reference, and then I will get a value of roughly a quarter. I will make that a percentage value and add 1 decimal place. So let's go ahead and copy those all the way to the bottom. All right, so now I want, for everything that is in quarter 1, what was the total sales? So as I mentioned, I'm going to reuse this function here that's in cell C6. I'm just going to do copy, paste, and let's take a look at how I'm going to modify this. Well, first of all, I want to change this from COUNTIF to SUMIF. And I want to look at the transactions quarter and match everything that is in that quarter 1, but then I want to sum the values that are in transaction total sales. So that's how I modified that formula. So there I get a value. I want to change this to currency, and then I want to reduce the decimals. So I'm just going to fix that briefly and then copy that all the way down. Now I want to do the same thing here. In this column, I copy and pasted those functions, but notice that these functions all say sum if, not average if. So all I'm going to do is use a little shortcut. I'm going to go to find and replace, and I want to replace everything that says sum if with average if. And so I'm just going to replace all, and it's made 4 replacements, and that's close that out. And just to make some more detail here, I am going to add 2 decimal places. All right, so now we have the total sales that were made in Q1. We have the average sales that were made in Q1. Now let's look at our costs. So to make our change, I'm going to copy these and look at these and paste it over here, and I'm going to look at what I need to change. Well, technically, I only need to change this value, total sales, to total costs. So I'm just going to select these cells. I'm going to do a find and replace. And I want to change total sales to total cost. And replace all. I'll get 8 replacements, and I'm going to hit close. And things are working right along. You can kind of see a pattern. I'm making use of some of the features that are in Excel to allow myself to move faster. So once again, I'm going to copy these. I'm going to paste them here. And what do I need to change? Well, now I need to change total cost to total profit. So I'm going to select these cells, do a find and replace, and I will replace anything that says total cost with total profit. Replace all. There should be 8. Good deal. And let's close everything up. And now I have completed my quarterly financial performance. Now let's make sure our formatting is correct. So B2, I want to make sure that is a title format. I'm going to go ahead and fix the width of all of my columns to a width of 10. And column A, I'm going to change that to a width of 3. All right, so that actually got us all the way through step 1. And it should look like the values that are in figure 1. Let's go on to step 2, where we're doing monthly financial performance. Now, you can continue to do a manual adjustment like the instructions have provided you. But I'm going to show you another way of using the strength that we have in Microsoft Excel to do a little bit of copy, pasting, and editing of our functions. So I'm going to select all of these cells, copy, and I'm going to put them in, paste them in B13. All right, and now I'm going to look at ways of adjusting this. So that way now this is going to be our monthly financial performance. All right, so now I know I need to change this to month. And I know that I need to extend this all the way down to month 12. Now let's start with looking at our count function. So now in my COUNTIF function, I'm looking at transactions quarter, and I need to change that to month. Now, in fact, if I look at all of my other functions where there's quarter, I'm going to want to change all of those to month. So I'm easily just going to do another find and replace. I'm going to select all of these cells from C17 to J20. I'm going to do a find and replace, and I'm going to find the word quarter, and I'm going to replace it with month. That is going to fix all those functions, so that way they are month associated. So now if I look at this function, we made that change, and I only need to count for those months, so I am just going to simply take this and bring it all the way down to the bottom. Now let's take a look at this total formula. Now it is C17, but it is summing the values from C6 to C9. What I really want it to sum, and I'm going to select this right here, I want it to select from C17 to C28. So now that I've changed that, I'm going to make sure those are absolute. Hit enter. And now I am going to basically paste those all the way down. Now, if I take a look at these functions, since I've already made the change from quarter to month, I just select them and copy them all the way down. And this should complete step 2. So let's take a look at formatting one more time. And we want to make some format changes to this so that way we can whatever we do here, we're going to copy and reuse it in other places. So by the way, always save your work. We're going to go to page layout, and I want you to change the orientation to landscape. I want you to change the width options for scaling from automatic to one page. And the last thing we want to do is change the header footer. So we're going to click on the little drop down arrow and then go to header footer, custom footer. On the left side, we have to put the file. In the center, we want to go page/pages. And in the right, we want the worksheet name, which is going to be a tab. So we'll select OK, and let's do a print preview to see what this looks like. So I did a print preview, and you'll notice that everything fits on one page, and my header and footer, well, there's no header, excuse me, but the footers are established based on how we want it. So let's go back. The last thing I want to do, I want to go to View, and I want to hide the grid lines, okay? I'm going to go back to cell A1 and hit Save and make sure everything is in place. All right, so that sets us up really well to be able to do some copy and paste options as we continue our analyses. So let's go on to step 3, where we're going to do a category analysis. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this sheet of quarter monthly financial performance, and I'm going to use this and make a category analysis sheet out of it. So let's right-click on the tab for monthly financial performance. Let's create a copy, select the copy box, and I'm going to move it to be right before the data transactions. So now I have quarterly, monthly financial performance, and I want to rename that to category analysis. All right, I'm going to get rid of what's currently here in these cells from 13 or rows 13 to 28. Just right click, hit delete. And let me zoom in here and let's kind of start working on making this a category analysis. So we want to change this to category financial performance. And we're going to keep all of these values. And what we want to do is we want to change this to category. We're going to change this to quantity, and everything else will be the same. All right, so let's go ahead and delete these two columns. And there's a reason why we're doing that, because we're going to calculate some things a little bit differently. In fact, just to kind of give you a preview, we're also going to calculate the averages a little differently. Because what we want to look at when we do a categorical analysis, we want to come and look at our data transactions and look at a category. And we want to be able to base things based on the number of items sold. So if we take a look at this example here on record right here, we can see that 25 sandwiches were sold in that particular transaction. So we can't just count the number of times sandwiches appear. We actually have to do a sum if. Every time sandwich appears, we have to sum the value that is in this particular cell. So let's go back to our category analysis. First, let's get our categories. I'm going to use a unique function just to get my category list. So I'm going to go to the transactions table, get category, close it off, and now I have my category list. These are the only unique values that are in categories. Now we're going to do some sorting on this table that we're creating, or this range of cells, and we can't do sorting on something that is in a spillover function. So you can see here when I select on cell B6, there's like a blue box that shows up. And this means that the formula that's in B6 is spilling over to the other cells. So let's change that. Let's select all these values. Let's copy, and then we're going to go to paste values in these cells. And when we do that, that gets rid of that function unique that was in cell B6. So now we can reference these as actual values and also sort some things around. So let's start with our quantity count. Quantity is going to be a little bit different. We're going to do a sum if. We're going to do transactions category, evaluating the criteria that's in B6. Let's keep $B in there. And we want to sum transactions and sold from the sold column. All right. So we do have some decimal values because portions were there, but let's get rid of our decimals and make this an accounting value, and that way we have a whole integer. And let's just copy that from bottom or top to bottom. Now what I want to do is I want to sort these two columns from greatest to least based on the quantity. An easy way to do that is select on cell C6 and drag to B11. Go to Data, Sort Z to A. And this will automatically sort based on the quantity column because that was the column that you selected first. All right, I'm going to go back to the Home tab. So now everything is sorted on quantity. So now the rest of our analysis should be in that same type of format. Now total is relatively the same as before. Let's take a look at what we have. It is the sum of C6 to C9. Let's change that, of course. It's going to be C6 to C11. Let's make sure that is an absolute reference. And let's go ahead and copy that all the way down. So there we go. It is C6 to C11. All right. Now let's take a look at what's happening here. All of these cells here actually have quarter in them. So let's go ahead and select all of these cells. We're going to do a find and replace. Let's find whatever says quarter, and we're going to replace it with category. Okay, there was 12 replacements. We're going to go ahead and close everything up, and let's just go ahead and copy all of this down. All right, so now here's where average is going to be just a little bit different. Because we actually have the quantity of sandwiches sold, the average is nothing more, I'm going to start here in F7, that the sum total of sales divided by the quantity that is in cell C6. And I want column C to be frozen, so I'm going to do a mixed reference, making C absolute referenced. Okay, so that's the average value for our sandwiches. I'm going to copy and paste that down. And I can, since I did that formula the correct way, I can now paste those over for all of the others. All right, that finishes our categorical analysis. Now let's make sure from a formatting standpoint, everything is correct. I could go to File and Print to get a print preview, and everything looks good. I'm going to go back. And by the way, if you're scared of these little green triangles, you can always come up here, select the cells, and just say ignore error. And that should get rid of them. All right, so that got us through step 3. Let's look at step 4. So like with before, I did a little copy and paste of functions. So I'm going to copy category analysis. And I'm going to put it right before data transactions. And I am going to rename this one into item analysis. And I'm going to start making some changes to this. So I'm looking at figure 4 in our instructions. This now needs to be item financial analysis. This is going to be the description. We're going to have quantity, percent total, but we're going to add a new column in here that will allow us to do some analysis, and this will be the percent accumulated. Now we're going to also look at total profit in a different way as well. We're going to add percent total. We're going to add dollar accumulated. And we're also going to add percent accumulated based on total profit. All right. So let's do some formatting. So first of all of these need to be a cell style of heading 3. These cells right here, J4 to N4, need to be merged and centered. And that requires you to click on the merge and center twice. And then also set that cell style to be heading 2. And things are starting to look good. Wow, I spelt description wrong. Bad me. So let's fix that. Description. There we go. Now we know that these are not going to be used anymore. So let's start taking a look at how we need to make some adjustments to this. So first of all, to get the item descriptions, we're going to use the unique function again. So let's go ahead and put unique. We're going to use our transactions table. And we're going to get descriptions. All right, so there are all of our descriptions. Now, like with before, I want to copy this range of cells, and I'm going to hit Control-Shift down arrow to select it all. I'm going to copy it and then paste values. Boom. Now it's no longer as a unique value. All right, so let's take a look at this function. Notice that it's transactions category, transactions sold. In fact, the only thing we need to do is change all of these from category. Oh, hold on 1 second. We want to change all of these from and do a find and replace for everything that says category. We want to replace it with description. And of course, we need to spell it correctly. Hit replace all. Okay, there were 24 replacements. I'm going to hit close. And what I'm really most interested in is, for now, is going to be these items. So I'm going to select on these 2 columns and hit a double click, and that will get us kind of rolling with what our analysis is going to be. Now, we're only going to be interested in really the top 30% or 70% to 80% of our items. So we need to sort this list based on the quantity of items sold. So like with before, I'm going to start with quantity, which is in this case C6. I'm going to hit Control-Shift down arrow and then 1 to the left. And I'm going to go back to data. I'm going to sort from Z to A. And that brings us into a sorted list based on quantity. Now I want to do the accumulated value. And the accumulated value is nothing more than the sum of the adjacent value to D6. So let me show you how I'm going to write that. That is the sum of D6 to the adjacent value, which in this case is D6. Now I want the adjacent value to change, but I want D6 here to remain the same. So I am going to freeze the 6. So I hit enter. And now I copy this function all the way down. Oh, looks like I made a little mistake. What did I do here? Ah, I see where my mistake is. My mistake is actually right here. Do you see this mistake? I forgot to make an adjustment on this particular column. There is no way that chips at a quantity of 17,000 is 40% or close to 40% of the percentage of total items sold. And the problem is I forgot to change the range of C6 to C11. So let's fix that real quick. So let's go ahead and select what is here, which currently is C6 to C11. I'm going to now select on C6, hit Control Shift down arrow. That selects C6 to C175. Make that an absolute reference, hit enter. And now I'm going to change that for all of the cells down below. And now look at my accumulated numbers. This is starting to make sense. By the way, this accumulated column cannot go over 100%. So just so that way you know that basically this should not go over 100% at the very bottom. All right. So now that I have this completed at this point, I really want to continue my analysis. I'm going to say for the first 70% of items, which is really these 15 items. I believe it's 15. Let me select these. Look down here at the bottom right. You'll see count down at the very, very bottom right. Counts out to 15. I'm going to insert a row right above 21. And this will give me an idea. These are the cells or the items that I am most interested in. So let me go ahead and continue my analysis, focusing only on these items. Now I'm comparing my results with what we have in our figure that is provided to us in our instructions, and it appears though that this is looking correct. Great. So now let's work on this percent total profit column over in cell L or column L, right over here. So this is going to be actually equal to the value in J6 divided by the sum of all the total profit based on the transaction sheet. So I'm going to do sum of transactions total profit. Total profit. Okay, and this basically gives us a value that tells us what percentage, make this a percentage format, add a decimal place. This tells us what that dollar figure is compared to the total sales that is in our financial records. So let's go ahead and copy that all the way down. Now we're going to do the same thing with the dollar accumulated. We are going to look specifically in column J, and we're going to figure out, okay, based on these values, what is actually the accumulation of those total values. So I'm going to say equals the sum of J6 based on the adjacent, which in this case is J6. I am going to keep the first J6 into an absolute reference. Right now I get a value, and I'm just going to copy that all the way down. I am going to adjust the width of this just slightly. Okay, in fact, it looks like it needs to be a width 10 across the board. So I'm going to adjust everything at this time to a 10. All right, let's take a look at percent accumulative. So percent accumulative is based on what is currently in cell L. So let's go ahead, and this is nothing more than the sum of what is in L based on what's adjacent. And then we are going to make L6 fixed. Since it's already a percentage, it will remain a percentage. And then we can see that although this is accounting for 70% of our accumulated items sold, it is only 60% roughly of our total profit. So we might want to continue to do an additional analysis. But for now, we're going to stop here with this, and we have to make a couple more edits for formatting. Now, when this gets printed out, we want to make sure that only the values here are shown, not all this extra work that's down here. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to select on cell N20, go all the way to A1, go to page layout, go to print area, and set print area. What this does is it makes sure that on this page, only these items are going to be printed or viewed. So let's double check. We have our width set to 1 page. Our orientation is still landscape. Let's go to File, Print. Let's take a look at the preview. And everything that we wanted to be shown is shown. Notice that the description has a lot of white space. Let's go back and let's make an edit to that width, just critical to those first 15 items. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to select quarter, monthly financial performance, hold down my shift key and group these three worksheets that we worked on today. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Print, and I'm going to look at if there's any errors that kind of stand out to me based on what is in the instructions. All right, so everything is looking pretty good to me. So what I'm going to do is ungroup everything by selecting on my documentation, hit Save, and I'm going to submit this. So that should get you 100%. If you don't have it and you're finding some issues, please reach out to your instructor. We'll all be glad to help you out. All right, thank you.